"Pretend to be my son," she said, her hand trembling as it gripped my sleeve. Outside the diner, and for one terrifying second, I thought she was about to fall. That's how it started. Not with a greeting, not with an introduction, just a stranger's cold fingers closing around my wrist on a gray Tuesday morning in Briar Hollow, Ohio, and a whisper that didn't make any sense at all. "My name is Hollis Vance. I was 34 years old, raising my daughter Nadine on my own, since her mother left 2 winters back, and I was standing outside Grover's Diner with a coffee in one hand and a grocery list in the other, when an old woman I had never seen before in my life grabbed hold of me like I was the last dock post before the river took her. She had silver hair pinned up messy, like she'd done it in a hurry, and eyes the color of rainwater, pale blue, almost gray, and full of something I couldn't name yet. Fear, maybe, or something worse, something rehearsed. "Please," she said again, "just for 5 minutes. Just pretend. I will explain everything after. I swear it on my life. Just please. Call me Mom when she gets here." Before I could even ask who she was, a navy blue sedan pulled up to the curb, and a woman stepped out holding a clipboard like it was a weapon. She had the kind of walk that comes from doing an unpleasant job for a very long time. Brisk, guarded, unreadable. The old woman's grip on my arm tightened, and she leaned in close enough that I could smell peppermint and something like old paper, like a house full of letters nobody sends anymore. "Delphine Cottrell?" the woman with the clipboard called out. "That's me," the old woman answered. And just like that, her voice changed. Steadier, brighter. A performance switched on like a porch light. "I'm Marlene Kessler, Adult Protective Services." We spoke on the phone. The woman glanced at me, then back at Delphine. "Is this your son?" I felt Delphine's fingers dig into my forearm like roots gripping soil. "Yes," she said. "This is my boy, Otis. He came all the way from Columbus to check on me." I don't know why I didn't correct her. Maybe it was the way her voice cracked on the word boy. Maybe it was the way her whole body seemed to be holding itself together with nothing but willpower and a stranger's borrowed lie. Whatever it was, I heard myself say, "Yes, ma'am." Just checking in on my mother. Marlene Kessler studied me for a moment too long. The kind of look that measures a person and files them away. Then she nodded, made a note on her clipboard, and said the words that would change the next 3 months of my life, without me having the faintest idea it was happening. Well, that's good to hear. We've had some concerns raised about Mrs. Cottrell living alone, given her age and her heart condition, and whether she has adequate family support. If her son is actively involved, that changes our assessment considerably. Heart condition. I hadn't known that a minute ago. I didn't know anything about this woman, except that she smelled like peppermint and was holding onto my arm like it was the only solid thing left in her world. The visit lasted maybe 10 more minutes. Questions about medication, about the state of the house, about whether Delphine had someone to call if she fell. Every time Marlene looked my way, Delphine answered for me, filling in details about a son named Otis, who apparently visited every other Sunday, who had helped her plant tomatoes in the spring, who had fixed the loose step on the porch just last month. I nodded along like I remembered planting those tomatoes myself. When Marlene finally got back into her sedan and pulled away, Delphine's whole body seemed to deflate, like a balloon 2 days after the party. She let go of my arm, pressed a hand to her chest, and breathed out something that was half relief and half grief. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you, young man. I don't even know your name." "Hollis," I said. "Hollis Vance." "Delphine Cottrell," she said, though, of course, I already knew that. "I owe you an explanation." Hollis Vance, and a cup of coffee, at the very least. I should have said no. I had a 7-year-old daughter waiting for me to pick her up from her friend's house, groceries getting warm in my truck, a whole life that had nothing to do with strange old women and government caseworkers. But there was something in the way. Delphine Cottrell looked at me, not quite pleading. well, not quite grateful, something in between. Like a woman standing at the edge of a very long story she'd been carrying alone for a very long time. So I followed her 3 blocks to a small, white house with peeling paint and a porch swing that hadn't swung in years. And I sat down at her kitchen table while she poured coffee into cups that didn't match. And she told me the truth. Her son, Otis, was not in Columbus. Otis Cottrell was 41 years old and had been in the Mansfield Correctional Institution for the past 6 years, serving time for a robbery that had gone wrong when he was younger and angrier and deeper in debt than any of us should ever let ourselves get. Delphine had visited him faithfully for the first 2 years. Then her husband died. Then her heart started acting up. Then the drive got to be too much, and the visits slowed to letters, and the letters slowed to fewer and further between. Not because she loved him less, but because every trip to that visiting room felt like grieving a person who was still alive. The neighbors started talking, she told me, her hands wrapped around her coffee cup, like it was the only warm thing left in the world. Said an old woman living alone, no family, checking on her, house getting shabby. Somebody called the county, and now they think if I don't have people looking after me, they'll put me in one of those homes. Her voice broke on the word homes like it was a curse word. I have lived in that house for 46 years, Hollis. My husband and I raised our son in that house. I'm not leaving it in a wheelchair pushed by strangers who don't know my name. So you needed someone to look like family. I needed someone to look like hope, she said. Just for 5 minutes. I didn't think it would work. I didn't think anyone would say yes. I don't know why I said yes either. Maybe because Nadine's mother had left the same way. Most disappearances happen slowly, then all at once, and I understood something about the particular loneliness of being left behind. To prove you were still worth staying for, maybe I just recognized a person drowning and reached out my hand without doing the math on how far I'd have to swim. Whatever the reason, I told Delphine Cottrell I would come back. Not because the case was closed. Marlene Kessler had made it clear there would be follow-up visits, unannounced ones, over the next several months, until they were satisfied Delphine had a stable support system. And so, without really meaning to, I became a son on loan. Every Sunday, I brought Nadine with me, and we ate dinner at Delphine's chipped kitchen table. And slowly, without either of us noticing exactly when it happened, the lie stopped feeling like a lie and started feeling like something closer to family. Nadine adored her. Delphine taught her how to snap green beans and hum old church hymns. While she did it, taught her that biscuit dough should feel like an earlobe when it's ready, not too soft, not too stiff. She kept a drawing Nadine made her a lopsided sun over a house with too many windows, taped to the refrigerator like it was a Rembrandt. And I found myself fixing that loose porch step for real, mowing her yard on Saturdays, sitting with her on the swing that finally started swinging again, listening to stories about a boy named Otis who used to catch fireflies in mason jars and once broke his arm falling out of the oak tree in the backyard trying to rescue a cat that, as it turned out, had not needed rescuing at all. But there was a sadness underneath all of it, one that never quite left her eyes. Every few weeks, a letter would arrive in the mailbox with a Mansfield postmark, and Delphine would take it inside without opening it in front of me, and I understood, without her ever saying so, that some doors hurt too much to open with an audience watching. It was in October, on a Sunday cold enough that Nadine wore her yellow coat with the broken zipper, that everything I thought I understood about Delphine Cottrell turned itself inside out. I arrived to find her sitting very still at the kitchen table, an open letter in front of her, her face the color of old paper. For a moment, I thought she'd had another spell with her heart, and I nearly called for an ambulance right there. But she looked up at me, and there were tears running clean tracks down her face, and she said 4 words that I will remember until the day I die. He's getting out early. Otis Cottrell had been granted early parole, good behavior, a program he'd completed, a job waiting for him through a re-entry initiative at a warehouse 2 counties over. He was coming home in 5 weeks, and Delphine Cottrell, who had spent 6 years pretending to a whole town that her son visited every other Sunday, who had built an elaborate architecture of love out of half-truths just to keep her house and her dignity, was terrified. He's going to walk into this house, she said, and he's going to hear from every single neighbor on this street about his brother Otis, who fixed the porch step and mowed the lawn, and ate biscuits at this table every Sunday for months, and he is going to know I lied about him existing, because I needed a version of my son I'd be proud to introduce to strangers, instead of waiting for the real one to come home. That was the twist that changed everything. I thought I understood about the past several months. I hadn't just been playing a part to help an old woman keep her house. I had unknowingly become a stand-in for the version of her son she wished. She still had the boy who fixed things and stayed close, instead of the man who'd made a terrible mistake and was now going to come home to find a stranger had, in every way except blood, been living his life. For him, I won't pretend I knew what to do next. I drove home that night with Nadine asleep in the back seat and sat in my driveway for a long time before going inside, turning the whole mess over in my mind, because the truth was, somewhere in those months of borrowed Sundays, I had stopped playing a role. I had started loving that impossible, sharp-tongued, biscuit-making old woman, like she actually was something close to family. And now, the real thing was coming home, and I didn't know if there'd be room left over for a fake son once the real one walked back through that door. 5 weeks passed the way dread always does. Too slow, and then somehow, all at once. On the morning Otis Cottrell was released, Delphine asked me to come with her to the pickup point, not as her son this time, just as Hollis. She wore a blue dress I'd never seen before, and held a small paper bag of peppermints in her lap the entire drive. And she didn't say a single word until we saw him. He came out through the gate thinner than his mother's stories had painted him, gray already, threading through his hair, though he wasn't yet 42, carrying a single duffel bag and an expression that looked braced for disappointment before anyone had even said a word to him. Delphine got out of the car and walked toward him, slower than I'd ever seen her move, and I stayed by the truck, giving them the kind of distance a stranger gives to something sacred. I couldn't hear what she said to him at first. I only saw her hands come up to his face, saw his shoulders start to shake, saw 6 years of separation collapse into an embrace that neither of them seemed ready to end. When they finally walked back toward the truck, Delphine's eyes found mine, and there was a question in them I didn't yet have an answer to. Otis Cottrell studied me the whole ride home in the rearview mirror, and I understood he was trying to place me, trying to figure out who exactly the stranger driving his mother's car was, and why she kept glancing at me like she needed my permission for something. It wasn't until we were sitting at that same kitchen table, 3 cups of coffee steaming between us, that Delphine finally told him the truth. She told him about Marlene Kessler, and the clipboard and the fear of losing the house. She told him about grabbing a stranger's sleeve outside Grover's diner because she couldn't bear the thought of dying in some facility, surrounded by people who didn't know her name. She told him about the months that followed, the fixed porch step, the mowed lawn, the little girl in the yellow coat who'd learned to snap green beans at that very table, and she told him, voice shaking, that she was sorry, that she had never meant to replace him, only to survive until he could come home and be replaced back into his own life. I expected anger. I would have understood it if it came. Instead, Otis Cottrell put down his coffee cup, looked at his mother for a long moment, and then looked at me. You kept her safe, he said. You kept the house. You kept her from being alone when I couldn't. His voice cracked on the last part, the part that mattered most. I spent 6 years writing letters I wasn't sure she was even reading, wondering if she'd given up on me, and instead, she was out there fighting to keep her whole life together, waiting for me, even when she had to invent a version of me who could stand in until the real one came back. He reached across the table, not toward his mother, but toward me, and shook my hand like I'd done something worth thanking instead of something that had, for a while, felt like a debt I didn't know how to repay. Thank you for being my mother's son when I couldn't be. There wasn't a dry eye at that table, not mine, not Delphini's. And when Nadine came running in from the backyard, asking if it was almost time for biscuits, Otis Cottrell laughed for what I think was the first time since he'd walked out of that gate, and asked if he could learn how to make them too. Delphine Cottrell passed away the following spring, peacefully, in her own bed, in the house she had fought so hard to keep, with her real son beside her, and, if the timing of things means anything at all, with a lopsided crayon drawing of a sun over a house with too many windows, still taped to her refrigerator. In the letter she left behind for me, she wrote that those 5 minutes outside the diner had not just saved her house, they had saved her faith that there were still strangers in the world willing to become family for no reason other than kindness. She left me her porch swing, the one that had sat silent for years before I fixed it, with a note that said it should never stop swinging again. Otis Cottrell still lives in that house. He fixes things now, real things, for real reasons, and every other Sunday, my daughter Nadine and I sit at that same chipped kitchen table, eating biscuits made from a recipe that started with a lie and ended up being the truest thing I've ever been part of. Because sometimes the difference between a stranger and a son isn't blood at all. Sometimes it's just 5 minutes, and the choice to say yes.
If this story touched your heart, remember family is not always about blood. Sometimes it is about who shows up when it matters most. If you believe kindness can change your life, hit that subscribe button and share it with someone who needs a little of today.